now being recorded. From now on, this will be part of posterity, so whatever you say. Who knows where that might end up. Yeah, so hi everybody, here we are. And so we could have fun even if we are being recorded. Even if it is very...
Makes it more fun, actually.
It could, you know, who knows what we can come up with as we go. When we're in creative brain, but yeah, I'm really excited because I've been wanting to do this for a long time, to teach in a little bit more of a scholarly way. I'm not sure I'll go that far in terms of the research and such, but probably a little bit dabbling in that and bringing in. Really want you all to have a sense of the underpinnings of this work, so that as you walk through with people and see what I'm doing, that you have some idea of why I'm doing it. Because it might seem very random, but it rarely is. No, it is. Just, you know, there's some randomness here and there, but usually it works out. So today this is going to be the intro to all of this, and I'm very excited about being able to go to that level. As I've been playing with this work for these decades now, it's pretty much, well, why? Why would we even do this? Why body-centered? Really? And I started way back when with Gay and Katie Hendricks out of graduate school. I went to one of their workshops, 8 days, and it blew me away because I started feeling so good, and so I started incorporating some of the principles and the practices, but I didn't really know why. What was it really doing? And I think as time goes on, there's more and more evidence to say that a body-centered approach is where it's at. If you're going to shift through trauma, if you're going to, I don't know, deal with your nervous system, all the stuff, the phrases that people are using pretty regularly now. I didn't learn any of that stuff. I mean, really zero in graduate school, and then to me it's only pretty recent that our professions have been incorporating that sort of thinking. Maybe the last 10 years, I don't know. So why? Why would we do that? What is this doing for you? And I want to be able to get to the core of that in terms of how I see this. Because I think it's the most powerful work that's on the planet. That's what I think. And when I sit with people and can go to that sweet spot over and over of this is what we're doing right now, the shifts are miraculous. I was sitting, well, we weren't exactly sitting, we were on the swap room, but I saw a couple yesterday, stuck together 10 years, really hard, I don't know, should we have kids, maybe not, divorce, all those possibilities. And in about, probably about 40 minutes in, because there was I have to take the notes about what's the story, because people get unhappy if we don't do that part. Okay, tell me the story. All right, that's okay, tell me more. I've never heard that story before. It's about communication. Well, right, so people really want to know, here's my story. So I have to spend some time. But once we started in on it, he said probably about half an hour into what we were doing, he said, oh, and this is the first session. And then about 10 minutes later, as he's crying and she's crying, it's like, oh, really? It could be this easy? So you might want to write that down somewhere. It could be this easy. Because our profession would probably not believe that. So I'd like you to carry that through this time that we have, this year or whatever it turns into. It could be this easy. It doesn't have to be so hard. And I'd say our culture, well, whatever our is, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture might think that harder is better and more effort means somehow it's more meaningful or something. But you don't have to. I mean, you could if you want it to be hard, that's up to you. But what if it didn't have to be? And if your clients could be like, oh, really? It could be this easy. I remember at the beginning of my practice, I certainly was in scarcity about, well, I didn't want clients to leave too soon because, how would that work? I wouldn't have any clients. On this side of things, now it feels like there's all kinds of folks that would really appreciate having an easier time. So And there will be more, because probably most of our planet is still living in reactive brain pretty much all the time. So I don't think you need to worry too much about not having enough folks to support, even if it's easy, but you'll have to decide that for you. Yes.
Would
Diane.
you mind backing up just a little bit
Sure,
more?
I would not mind.
Then Day and Kathy Hendricks and talk about your doctoral work and what you were focused on in graduate school.
I'd be happy to
This is
recite
getting
the name
academic
of
here.
my dissertation to dust off that part of my brain. Because, you know, it has to be many words strung together. Let's see if I can string them. What's the very beginning? Dynamics of merging versus disengagement in same-sex versus opposite-sex couples.
Good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty official.
It does. It sounds good.
Yeah, so that's what I've been fascinated for a long time about what does it mean to have connection and have self. And that those two dynamics, or those two kind of experiences, tend to kind of go to one or the other side. I can have self by not connecting with you, or I can have connection, and then it's like, okay, whatever you want, honey, right? And I lose me in that. And I think there's this kind of ongoing flux back and forth between having lots of self and less connection, and having lots of connection and little self. And people seem to really enjoy that experience, that merging experience, and also seem to enjoy the sense of me-ness. But there's also issues at each of those polarities. If I've given myself up at some point, I'm going to get really mad about that. And if I'm not here too far, I think it brings up very deep fears in us, kind of I've been shunned and I'm off in the forest getting ready to be eaten by wolves kind of an experience. So finding that place in relationships, any relationships, intimate, but otherwise all of us, I think I believe, you know, as pack animals, as humans, that we like connection, we like contact, that it soothes us, that it's comforting to us in a very basic way. So I'm fascinated by, well, how do you do that? And I think this language that you're learning is an answer, maybe the answer to how do you have both.
This language that we're learning through this
Body-centered
doing here.
language. Because if I can tell you the truth about my experience, it's going to connect me with me, which then if I can tell you and you can hear it, because I haven't blamed you or said something mean, so you have to, right, if I can tell you in this way, you can check in with you and connect with you. And now we have intimacy.
Exactly.
We have self and connection all at the same time.
And the best kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That helps.
Okay, good.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. Give you a little more place, and time.
Yeah, a little more place, right?
Yeah, and then, I got out of graduate school in '89, went into practice. I was working for the mental health center, tried to do couples work, which was sort of horrible and a little embarrassing now to think about it, but it really was the best I could. Anyway, all I knew how to do was reflective listening. What I heard you say, Diane, was. So I would try to teach that to people, and then I would be at home and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. And so I got very interested in either what really was wrong with me, or maybe it wasn't really that effective, which over time I'm leaning in that direction. So finding something else that is effective has been my life dream. And I have no idea what that sound is.
It's over the helicopter.
Right on our roof.
It's like right in. Oh, yeah, it's the helipad.
No, you're just kidding.
It's the Hendricks.
So in this series, I've kind of plotted it out. I think I sent you a schedule. Did I? Yeah, it's not. Okay. Can you recite it? Don't worry. But tonight, I want to start with, that sounds so late, doesn't it? This afternoon, I want to start with really the basic, like, well, where do you go? And why in the world do I keep saying, what's happening in your body now? I want to answer that question, because there are very good reasons. Oops. So, I thought, oh, this is a good client story. So, somebody came in last week, and she sat down and she said, I'm really upset, because my husband has been out of town, he was overseas, and I said, I told him, all I want is for you to bring me back some chocolate bars. Okay, I mean, that's not that hard, you can get them in the airport, just bring me back some chocolate bars. So he came home and he gave me the chocolate bars, he remembered that. But there were nuts in the chocolate bars, and he should know, I can't eat nuts. How could he not know that I can't eat nuts in my chocolate? It's been all these years, I can't remember, 10 years, whatever. So that's where we started. So the theme of this talk is, it's not about the chocolate bars. Okay? So we'll come back to that. But for you to know, that's a place. As you learn this work, if you know it's not about the chocolate bars, you're already heads and shoulders above most of what therapists are doing in the world. Because therapists want to say, well, let's talk about your marriage and the chocolate bars, and okay, how did that feel that he brought you the wrong chocolate bars? But it's not about the chocolate bars. Okay? So we'll come back to what it is I think about. All right, so hang in there, put on your Friday afternoon seatbelts. I'm gonna start throwing around words that sound more scholarly to me. Words like interoception. Does anybody listen to the Invisibilia podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, go listen to it again, because I would like you to listen to this. There's emotions, 1 and 2. Okay, so listen to those podcasts, Invisibilia. And there's a woman who is, now that I have heard her, I see her name a lot. New York Times, she does different articles and different appearances. Her name is Lisa Feldman Barrett. She's a psychologist in a faculty somewhere that I don't remember right now. So she's trying to figure out emotions. And I didn't bring the book. She wrote a book called something like How We Make Emotions. Well, I thought how we made emotions was that we all have universal emotions. That's what I learned. Everybody we know, if I'm in Nairobi and I go like this, that the Nairobians are going to know that's what anger looks like. And they have the same thing. And that Paul Ekman and some other folks walked around with photos and said, okay, show me anger. And that it was universal. She said, no, it's not. It's not. That all we really have as humans is our inner interoception. Interoception, okay? That's all we've got. So that if you think about, like, being a little baby, all you knew, where'd it go? Not down. You didn't know anything about the world, right? But you knew these things. You could, not that you got any language for it, but she calls this, okay, here's a good Friday afternoon phrase. An affective circumplex. Affective circumplex. But this is what she says. I'll show it to you. It's interesting. But what we've got is we've got unpleasant. We've got pleasant. Okay, so that's this, unpleasant to pleasant. It's either unpleasant or it's pleasant, okay? Or we've got aroused and calm. But that's all we have. That if you go internal, that's all you've got. You don't have any other anythings besides this thing that's going on in your body that you could say, oh, if you had the language as a baby. that's all you've got in your system. That's where you start. Everything else is added on from the culture. Well, that's interesting to me because you'll hear me over and over. I say, what are the sensations? What are the sensations? And I used to feel apologetic, and I would apologize. I know this is so basic, but what are the sensations happening in your body right now? And people will be like, oh, I'm angry. I'm fine. I'm tired. Tired is sort of a sensation, but not really. But the sensations are the same as this. This is what I'm looking for. Something that sounds like tense, or open, or I feel kind of like this. Sensations take you right to the heart of things. So letting that be like the pillar, the place you start. Not because, well, it seems like a good idea, well, you know, because you learned this thing, but because that's all that's true. Everything else we've made up. Try to digest that for a second. Everything else is imposed by the culture. You've learned along the way.
So I have a question, or a comment maybe. So yesterday we were meditating in our class, and I felt really irritated.
Yeah.
And I actually, for whatever random reason, thought to myself, what is this sensation? And it was fascinating because I actually, once I felt the sensation of just tension in my body, it didn't have an emotion behind it. It really was this experience that I was like, I label this irritation, but
Yeah.
it was just, it was fascinating.
Along the way, somebody's taught you that that's what irritation feels
Yeah,
like.
exactly.
And you had a word called irritation.
Yeah, and then that took me down a whole road of why and
Yeah, right.
It was cool. I actually proved this to myself.
Well done, scientific evidence. That's what we got.
So, if you have a client and you ask them, what is your sensation? And they say, I feel sad.
Yeah,
And you say, that's a feeling, that's not a sensation.
yeah.
Like, how do you guide them into the sensation?
Yes, because that's often my experience.
Yeah.
Well, I feel angry. No, sensation. Because I'm looking for what someone can swear to.
Not what is made up by the story.
I can swear that right now, let's see, do I have any, I notice this often happens. That's a story. I can swear that my mouth feels slightly dry.
Okay, so it's,
And that, if people don't get this at all, like, because we walk around, many of people, or it's, I don't know, not in my body, that's a great place to start. Are you thirsty right now? People generally will know. Or are you hungry right now? So starting there, again, seems so basic, but that place, somebody had a crick in their neck today, and a little thing right here, and just that stuff, because they can swear to it. So that's a place to stand. That is true. Now, the rest of it really is arguable, although we'll get to the unarguable truth in a little bit, and there's going to be more on the list. Because if you can do that, to what Kim just said, if you notice the sensation, like right now, tune into a sensation. Ready? And name it. What does it feel like?
Tightness in my hips.
Tightness in your hips. In a particular place?
I would say just right on my sit bones. It's like my sit bones are like
Huh?
holding.
Yeah, great. How about who else?
Palpitations, very mild, but palpitations.
Palpitations, right here? Uh-huh. So does that feel like a little, so palpitation sounds like it stands out to you, it's a little more
Little more obvious than
obvious. Yeah, it's not your typical kind of baseline, there's something that stands out, a little higher in the arousal zone, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not unpleasant or pleasant. It's just
Great.
it's in my awareness.
Yeah, great. It's not pleasant, so somewhere in there. Other people? Right?
I feel some tension on this side of my head.
Yeah.
I feel like a kind of fluttering in my stomach.
Pulsing in my temples.
tightness in my chest.
I feel some pain in my hip.
There's a tight spot in my skull right by my ear.
Now, from a relational standpoint, I don't know if you notice this, but as soon as people are saying it, it's like, oh, I'm in there with you. Like my system, my limbic system, which is an open system, is getting it. Oh, I know what that feels like. So right away, I have some empathy for what's going on. I have a connection to your experience. Who knows if it's really accurate? I don't know. But it pulls me in. So now, here's the cool superpower that you all have. So go back to that particular sensation. Find it. Is it still there first? Is there anybody where it's not there anymore? Okay. So now the superpower is with your attention and your breath. So put your full awareness on those spots. And while they're there, while your attention is there, or it's there, breathe with your attention. Just breathe with it. And give your body permission to feel what it's feeling. It can be as painful as it is. It can be even more painful. Basically, turn up the volume because you're giving it plenty of space to feel what you're feeling. Keep going. Keep breathing. Someplace in this, you're going to probably have the thought like, no, I don't want to feel this anymore. See if you can keep going past that point. Let's pause. I want to check in. So what's happening?
I had an added sensation, like the stomach felt really tense and I felt like I was nauseous.
Uh-huh. Yeah, great. So something changed. Anybody else?
I had anxiety, but that was part of my story that I'm increasing it. I don't know where this is going, but that was the story. That was
Yeah,
my
you could
mind.
hear the story
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And then what happened with the palpitations?
It became bigger and bigger.
Bigger and bigger, and then what
Yeah.
happened?
Started feeling more vibrations.
More vibrations.
And then there was that point that, do you really want to do this? I'm
Uh-huh.
asking myself.
Where's the tape?
I'm like, I'm breathing in.
Uh-huh.
I'm breathing in. It's not going to kill me. It's just a sensation. And I'm
Nice.
breathing in.
Nice.
It's still there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah. But I'm not feeling anxiety towards it anymore.
Okay. So it's still there,
Yeah.
but it sounds like anxiety, a sensation of anxiety.
Sinking.
It's the sinking. So the sinking has gone away,
Yes. Palpitation reducing now.
and palpitations are starting to reduce.
Yes.
Interesting.
But when I looked at it and started giving it more energy, I saw how it increased in
Yeah.
intensity.
Right. Oh my God! Oh no! Good night. Heart attack. Ah! Yes, with our thoughts, we can easily throw fuel onto that fire. Yeah, but meanwhile, to this putting our attention on it, if it's simply attention and breath,
Yeah.
not the freak out that comes with that sometimes,
Yeah.
it shifts. Anybody else?
Yeah, mine shifted.
And what happened next?
I noticed that with each breath, it's like the tension started to let go, and then I actually uncrossed my leg. And then I noticed that it started to lighten up even more, and there was an opening, and I actually smiled.
Amazing.
It's like, oh, I think I just let go of my entire workday.
Okay.
Just in my hips.
Just with some attention and some breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we didn't talk about why. We didn't talk about what. We could, and maybe we will, I don't know. But notice, all of this happened without anything else on top of it. The other thing that you just did was you tolerated your emotion, sensation. You tolerated it without interrupting it. Of course, you might have interrupted it with your thoughts. But I didn't see anybody smoke a joint or
Right.
cigarette or eat chocolate. All the things that we do to try to not feel that. So instead you put your full awareness and attention on the sensation, and it's shifted. So at base, that's, okay, that's the whole year right there. Right? Everything else will get, but it comes back to that. Addictions come from this. Trauma is about this, because we can't put our full attention on the experience because we get overwhelmed. This is too much. I can't tolerate how intense this feels. So I need to get my awareness away. That's what I did during the trauma, and now I'm going to keep doing it because it scares the shit out of me to feel this. So letting yourself feel what you're feeling is the thing in all of this, the sensations. It all gets back to that. I think most what we call, what is diagnosable mental illness, anxiety, depression, obsessive thinking, comes back to not doing what you all just did. Tolerating the sensation.
So you're saying addictions come from this? Does that mean like you are trying to avoid the sensation by doing whatever your addiction is?
Yes, exactly.
What is your, I'm assuming that, like, my experience was that when I focused on the sensation, that sensation dissipated, which then allowed me to feel another sensation that was less, like, that was one that I would rather, I liked the first one better than the second one.
Down to the next layer.
Yeah, so then
yeah.
it's like a gradual, like, deepening and moving, like, the first sensation probably served a purpose to distract me from the other deeper sensation that is more painful, like actual real pain. So then I would then focus my attention on that pain and peel back the layers kind of situation.
Yeah, with the idea overall that all that stuff, all it is this dense energy trapped in our tissues. So that as our attention goes on it, the attention itself is going to expand it and it will move out and dissipate. And so that whatever you haven't processed over your lifetime of your emotional world, you can. You can, by putting your attention on it. All that stuff that you didn't want to feel, okay, now's your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
So then in cases where someone does I actually had this happen to me years ago, a friend of mine it's happening to now, where like that level of sensation actually takes it to panic, more of a panic attack, kind of like a little bit like what you were describing, and they're really going there. Could it be, like I'm thinking of my friend, could it be that like all the stuff over the lifetime that hasn't been processed just got to a point where like the lid flew off, basically?
And that's
Is
why
that-
it looks like panic? Is that what you're...
Well, because then what it appears like is like all of a sudden all this sensation came to the like she can't push it away, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then of course in her case her mind gets in and she's
Right.
taking drugs and all that stuff.
Right.
Not legal drugs, but still, And,
Yeah.
But it is what it almost feels like is like, because I know she's had tons of trauma in her life, and but she keeps it all together and successful. So could that happen? That you just finally like it's too much? You
Yeah.
can't hold it.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what midlife crises are.
Fascinating.
People could talk about melting down,
Right.
right? They're melting their defenses away, all the
Right.
defense against between me and that stuff.
Right.
And, ooh, yep.
Okay.
I think panic, there's certainly, who knows what's happening with your friend. When people get into that loop, something else could be happening, like Aradna was saying, like, oh, I have palpitations. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Oh, God, here, I remember last time I was in the supermarket,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
So there
Like
could be a whole other thing that
layers
could be
of things.
re-evoking emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Layers of things
Yeah.
are happening. But then how do you work with people to keep them to stay in sensation when their mind is,
That's the question.
yeah.
Yeah, so bringing it back, sensation. What's the sensation now? What's happening now? So you'll hear me say that over and over, what's happening now? Because it brings our attention into the thing instead of away from the thing.
Right.
I would guess too that maybe you would like titrate their experience so that the more they have a good experience with staying with a sensation and they're like, oh, that's not so bad. And then that kind of gives their brain the experience of like, okay, this isn't as threatening as I thought. And then over time, the more times they have that experience, the deeper they can go and the less threatening the body or the brain.
Yeah, I think
would that is.
somatic experiencing, would call that toggling.
Mhm.
So from the sense of safety over to the sense of whatever that is,
Mhm.
back and forth. Certainly to watch out for that, and that's a whole course, right? And don't underestimate you or your clients, because it's just sensation,
Yeah.
right? All the story makes it, but if you can stay with, this is just energy, this is just a sensation, it doesn't mean anything. When you have indigestion, right? Let's say you have bad gas. You might be like, well, what happened? What did I eat? But you're not like, oh God, this means that I'll never be able to eat again. I'll never be able to, I better talk about this. It's just, it's a matter of digesting it. So to think about what it is that you really need to digest, and that this dense energy can be digested, processed.
Well, I would think that it would be maybe a combination of two things, like education, like just like that, you're gonna eat again,
Yeah.
and then also I just think about the relationship and how powerful it must be to be in the relationship, to feel safe enough, secure enough to be able to dive into those sensations, when to do it alone would be a lot scarier, especially in the beginning.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I think that's a lot of it, is that you're holding someone's hand. I mean, I'm not literally generally, but through it, that as kids, when these things first happened, they were all alone. And so to do that again, reenact that, is not the goal here. But again, to also have some sense of your clients as being capable, and versus, underestimating their
Delicate.
Yeah, delicate, fragile flowers.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry.
Sure.
So, we've talked a little bit about trauma in some of our classes, and like last year we weren't to the point where we were trained to deal with trauma. So it was kind of like stay away from it, don't get them into any body experiences or something.
Oh.
And that's not what you're saying at all, right?
Which part, that you should stay away?
Well, I feel like I'm hearing our clients can handle sensation, and to be kind of afraid that they'll be triggered into, isn't really true.
Well, I don't know, and of course, use your judgment,
Yeah,
your
I know,
own
I get it.
intuition.
I'm not,
Right. Yes, and I don't know if we touch on the triangle very much, but hero, victim, villain. Be careful about seeing your clients as victims, because you're literally disempowering them.
Yeah.
Just as you're sitting across from them, you are taking their power from them.
Yeah.
It sounds mean, doesn't it? So versus, this is a whole human being sitting in front of you. They have resources, they've gotten to this age, they've
Right.
figured out a whole bunch of things.
Right.
So to carry that picture,
Yeah.
and you can, give them the control, let me know when this is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And stop there.
Yeah.
And, people have some idea that more is better, and let's just barrel through it, but just really normalize that. No, just do what you want to. This is going in enough to process and coming back out when you're ready to come back out. You have the control over that. I was just talking to somebody this morning. She said, I am a control freak. She was talking about the Serenity Prayer, and I said, okay, you want control, here's control. You won't have control over your emotions, but you have control over where you put your attention and whether or not what you're doing with your breath. You have control over that. So, who doesn't? Maybe there are people that don't like control, but I haven't met them. It's just projection, right? So this is about putting the reins in their hands. It's not about, well, it's all up to you. They need you so much. Teach them what they need to learn so that they can do it themselves. Good. I never learned how to do this, so I'm guessing most people have.
May I say something?
Sure.
I think what's really important in that is to have us do our own work. And I think what happens is we're learning to do this with a client, but are we able to sit with them when they have a reaction?
Yeah. Having our own feelings.
Yeah,
and
so we have to be able to
processing
sit
our own
with ours
sensations.
while they have
Yeah,
theirs
yeah.
and be able to titrate back and forth.
And I just want to add to something, because this is from my experience of working with some clients in terms of sensation. Sensation also brings you to the present moment. So there's not so much head things going on about linking the story to this is an absolute, this is what it is, this is how it always is, this is how it'll never be like this, and you'll start to notice a difference in languaging. And that's what I really love about this part. It's the sensation about really bringing it into the present moment.
Yeah, and so write this down in big letters, if you want. The mind does not wish the best for you. Someone told me that many years ago, and I was appalled because I was relying on this great mind of mine. Didn't matter that I was unhappy and I was doing such a good job, right? So to start to kind of distance yourself just a little bit, especially from that survival brain, reactive brain. When we are in reactive brain, we are saying all kinds of stories, and generally speaking, they are not supportive of us feeling better. They might be supportive of us surviving, at least they think they are, but not of thriving, not of feeling happy, not of feeling good, connected. That's not what that survival reactive brain is designed for. So beware of the stories. Beware of the stories. I want to say a couple more things about just this whole picture that I have in big letters. So, very important. Through these 9 months, I'm going to come back over and over to projection. Projection, projection. We live in a world of projection, and we have to. I mean, I have to have some idea that if I sit here and you sit there, that you're going to keep sitting there for the next 5 minutes. Like, I have to have some ability to predict. But to understand that most of what you are hearing from me, from each other, is like our best guess of what reality is. Like, yeah, like that. What is our best guess? I don't know. So that's what we're doing over and over and over. Like, and Goldman Barrett, yeah, she would say that's all we've got, and I would agree with her. That all you have is projection. Like, you don't have any other. There is no there out here. Like, we're not really, okay, I don't want to mess with you too much, but like, all we are your constructs, right? You had to, through your whole life, you've added and subtracted and put it together and said, oh, okay, well, like, when you sit in a room like this is what you do, this is what you say, this is, right? You've done a lot of learning through your life. It's unimaginable what you've had to learn. It's all from our culture. It's a bit of a problem. Because our culture is, well, look at it, may not be the best at supporting happiness. So that the stories I'm telling you, just listen to the stories. Pretty much everything I'm saying, even if I call it a crick in my neck, it's a story. So listen to people, how we tell stories over and over. In fact, a word like pain is just a story. It's a story all packed up in one word. So to start to be aware of that, because we get very convinced that we're right. Oh, I saw a couple this morning. Oh, they're suffering so much. One of them was sitting like this. Poor thing. Really mad, really mad. And the way she saw it, she was so right about it. I said, well, you know, maybe this could be different. No, this is what it is. It's really, like, that's kind of who I interact with when clients walk in, because that's why they're there, because they're pretty unhappy. But life is the way they think it is. And it's hard to convince anybody that it's not true because all of their learning got them to this moment. It worked. So messing with that is kind of what your job is, gently. Because look, the only thing that's true, and we don't even know if this is true. I mean, okay, I'll take you to this place. So a little study that they were looking at people that were coming up for parole and how often were they, did they gain parole and how often didn't they? And how often did judges grant it, basically? Well, they looked at before lunch and after lunch. So if you were unlucky enough to go before a judge before lunch, your chances of getting parole plummeted. Because a judge says, unpleasant, maybe aroused, I don't know, they're hungry. They're just hungry. Unpleasant. Well, that must be because this person sitting in front of me is a menace to society. So no, you can't have parole, because who knows what you'll do. Oh, but after lunch, I feel so much better. Yeah, this is nice. I get to sit here all day. I'm not on the roof hammering the way those guys are. Right. This is nice. Right? So now, sure, you're a nice person too. So even that, like, life is this constant, like, I don't know what's really there. And so helping people with this, helping yourself, right? You're the big scientist in all of this. Knowing what's really true, I don't know. Because whatever the nausea was a few minutes ago, is it worse, more, like whatever, like gets passed through anyway. I've had to be really cognizant of this. I've noticed, I'll get into this negativity thing. And I finally got, because it's late at night, I'm tired, go to bed. Time for bed, right? You know, with 2-year-olds, we know that. 3-year-olds, it's time for them to have a nap. Oh, they missed their juice box, right? And we give them their juice box, and like, now they feel better, and they took a nap. Oh, now they're regular. Well, make sure you have your juice box and your nap, because you'll be completely different as a human. You can tell I do a lot of couples work, and here's what, really got me. It was this bit of this fun experiment by John Gottman. He has done all this couples work, and so he sits couples in front of cameras and connects them to heart rate monitors and galvanized skin response detectors and stuff. And so he said, and then go ahead and have a fight, and they measure all this physiological stuff. Well, in this experiment, they stopped it. Did I tell you this already? Yeah, in 15 minutes. Well, I'll tell you it to you again, so that it's making here too. And then they just sat there. So that same idea, 15 minutes later, they weren't the same people. They could actually move through the conflict. Like, take that with your clients. Your clients are functioning in the world most of the time. They couldn't drive their car over here if they weren't.
I actually have a story to share about that because I read it in, did I read it? I think I read it in The Relationship Ride. And so my husband and I have a pattern that's been like a 7-year pattern. When we argue that, like, I get really angry and I'm like, we're gonna fight about this now. and he's like,
this is a really good time to fight about this.
We're gonna solve this.
Yeah.
And then he shuts down and he's like, nope, we're not talking, like nothing's happening, and then I just get really PO'd. So anyway, I tried it. I wasn't sure at first I was going to remember to, because that's how PO'd I get.
Sure.
When he shuts down.
It's very important to solve this right now. Yeah.
But I actually, like, getting really pissed off, I was like, the 15 minutes.
Right on, go.
Because anything scientific, I'm like, it might work.
It's possible.
So I did it. I'm really proud of myself. I did it. I'm like, all right, I'm taking my 15 minutes. And this has been a 7-year pattern. And so I went in our room and I chilled out. And I set a timer even too, because I thought right after 15 minutes, I'm back out there.
Right. Yeah. Just wait. bucko.
Yeah. And the timer went off and I turned it off and I was like, I don't feel like talking. And then he came slowly, after like 10 more minutes, he came into the bedroom and he's like, aren't we gonna talk? And I was like, oh my God, it worked. I was like, not only did it work, but we reversed roles. It was the most beautiful thing ever.
Bravo.
Like it is very, like, it was very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully we keep doing it. And it was just, it was really special. Yeah, and we talked a little bit, and it was a great talk, and it wasn't even like that big of a thing.
Yeah, and that could have been a 3-day fight between me and my partner, many years ago, because we should talk about it now. I can't believe you wouldn't let me. Yeah. Right. So what if most of what you were up to is helping people come over to this zone? Because
Hi, sorry to see you again late.
well, oh good. Hey Eve. What's a sensation? For those with sorry.
Well, actually, it's like I'm a little fluttering in the chest, so it's probably a little like scared.
Oh, great.
But you were asking for the sensation, not the emotion.
Yeah.
Fluttering.
Fluttering. See, fluttering is so different from sorry.
Mm.
Anyway, like getting to the truth. Like this is about speaking the truth, having your feelings, other things. And so, yeah, you like, wouldn't that be interesting to walk in and say, yeah, I'm fluttering in my chest.
It's partly excitement too, though.
Yeah, right, and there you are. Physiology first. So overall, doing this work is about getting to the source, which is you. Okay? The source of the issue is you. It's me. It's your client. The source isn't out there. There isn't an out there. So if you're looking out there, going back to the chocolate bar, well, let's talk about the out there. Let's talk about your husband for a little bit. Let's talk about your marriage. The husband didn't bring home the right chocolate bars. That's how the session started. So we can talk about, well, were you assertive, or were you aggressive, or were you passive? Right, all that stuff. Or we could get to the source. Well, the source is her. It had nothing to do with him. Now that is a big old idea. So I want to pause with that one.
So like the source is her because she had a wound? Like,
I don't know, because she had the complaint.
because she had the experience, yeah. Okay.
She had the complaint. She said, this thing happened. And that's very useful because it's like there's your neurons arrow. Can you see it? Right there. This thing happened. That's your arrow to the issue. But the issue that you're going to follow back to is in her. The issue isn't out here somewhere. That is a very, very tricky thing. Because to all of us, well, I don't know, is that true? Many of us, it sure looks like it's out there. It sure looks like if you hadn't used that tone, I wouldn't be feeling this way. Or if you hadn't been late, I wouldn't be upset. Or if the tire hadn't blown, I wouldn't be scared. It looks like it's out there. And in relationships, this is especially confusing, which is all of us. Even if you don't have an intimate partner right now, you've got the person, at the grocery store, or you've got your mother, or you've got your dog, Jasper, or you've got, for me, February. Like there's relationship. We can't escape relationship. It's all relationship. It's the only way we know who we are is that there's a table there. I know I am not table. Right? I can find me because of you. I wouldn't know me if it wasn't for you. So thanks. But this is such a place, like if you can find your way, dig yourself back to this over and over, because that will help you get through to what's really going on instead of what it looks like. Because we mostly are as therapists, we are mostly operating in the world of what it looks like. Oh, it looks like you have an eating disorder. Oh, it looks like you're drinking too much. Oh, it looks like you can't have a conversation. But if we get down to the source, it's gonna maybe look really, really different. Because if they waited 15 minutes, they might have been fine about walking in and having that conversation. I don't know, of course it's not so simple, but like, it's like imagining, like tying you to the mast of stay with here and not there, because there isn't a there. It's a very big concept for Friday. And we'll come back to it over and over because like I forget often. It's not like I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's clearly not that. I get so tempted because it'd be so easy to solve that issue. Just get home on time or just blah, blah, blah.
I think I might have an example of that.
Go, Lenny.
So I got really angry at my mom because she was saying that she was having issues with driving and that she needed these special glasses. I was worried about her losing her independence when it came to her car, and she needed these special glasses, and she was just going to not get them and drive less. And I got really angry with her and really upset, and was kind of blaming her, and but it ended up, once I was like, what's going on here? This seems like a weird response. And then I realized that it was actually because I was upset that I was worried she wouldn't be able to ever come visit me. And so it wasn't about the glasses, it was about the visiting.
Yeah, there you go. And that makes it about you.
Yeah.
So as soon as it's about them, be careful. Just be careful.
So I have a this is a little philosophical, but it is Friday afternoon. So as you were talking about this, I noticed I had this like I have this sensation thing that I can do where I'm kind of like checking how like I'll feel a little self-conscious. I'll be like, what did I do? You know, like just the whole play.
Sure.
So you were saying all this, so I was like, oh, okay, this is only about me. And I had this touch of something where it's almost like is a part of what we're trying to do actually really kind of almost on, like, not to sound spiritual, but to really bring a person back to kind of breaking that constant of like it's the other, you know, like if you really go to, like, it's like really a deep thing if you kind of go to the end of it.
This is very spiritual work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm coming back to, if I can move through the sensation, what's behind that? It's the ground, is my spirit, it's my essence.
Right, it's almost like it feels like you could come to a place where it isn't really about if you're fighting or not fighting or anything else. It's like you're just, I realize how lacking and kind of standing in that place a lot of times I actually am. I mean, I know most of us of that level of independence almost. So that's like the deeper goal, right?
Down to what's really the essence of us.
Yeah.
To me, that is my goal, to be able to live from that place and know and support you all and everyone I know to live from that place, because that's a very exciting place. That's creative brain. That's possibility. That's solving every issue.
Yeah. Yeah, you're setting yourself free and you're setting everyone else free too. Yeah, that's cool.
So I want to do a little compare and contrast now that we just had that nice expansive moment. I'll do a little upper limit here. But, so you might be exposed to something that seems more like a medical model, maybe. See, a little more diagnosis, a little more what's wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But just as you are, and you're trying to sort through that, it has its place. But understand some things about that. Somebody close the door. Oh, thank you. That's a good example of what happens. I think about that, my focus goes narrow. What I've noticed is that many, many people come in believing there's something basically wrong with them. And probably, I don't know, we might all share that, I don't know, it seems like it. There's a wonderful Jane Seabury, you know her song, Jane Seabury? If you look around at the people on the street, don't know what to do. Something, it gets to, everybody's walking around believing there's something wrong with them. So I don't think it's worldwide, I think it's specific to this Judeo-Christian thing that we've got going. I don't know how that happened, whatever was going on with Abraham, et cetera. But there's something about, basically we come in with something wrong with us. So you're kind of working with that. Oh, it's original, well, clearly. The medical model kind of supports that idea. Yeah. And then what we're doing is trying to figure out, well, what is wrong with you? And then, okay, now that I'm the expert because I got to give you some digits, now we'll figure that out and then we will cure that thing that's wrong with you. So understand that whole paradigm is built on this place that you can't ever dig out of.
Good job, security.
It kind of does. Oh, there's still something wrong with you. Oh, 5 years later, and there's still something. Yep, I know. We'll find it. Right? And so people will walk around. We'll talk about this from the perspective of the inner map, what shame is about. I believe it's a social construct that is about hierarchy and control, that if I implant that in you, I don't mean to sound so conspiratorial, but there is something to it that if I know that you're going to feel ashamed if I go, and Monique, there's really something wrong with you, diagnosis code, blah, 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 right? That it's such a power over move that I'm shaming in a way that really is going to create collapse in you. And that's my goal. Because if you collapse, well, you're not going to be powerful. You're not going to be my equal. And just to finish that thought, right now, for whatever reason, we are really staring in the face of hierarchy, that people feel comfortable in hierarchy. Is that true? I don't know. Seems like there's something to it, the whole idea of who's up and who's down. But looking beyond that, outside of that, even in your own, like in your practice, in your life, looking beyond that, that's about power width. It's about, we all get to be as big as we are. But again, to kind of understand that a lot of the language that you are learning is about what is wrong. So I wanted to name that.
Can
So-
I make a comment?
Yes, you can.
So Julie, I really, really am so pleased that you talk from a societal level. Because for a long time, I had that, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me. If I could just fix what's wrong with me, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that got me to the level, and so there was a lot of work, right? But then years ago now, I got to the place of, society has conditioned me to have something wrong with me. Like, I've adopted all of the societal constructs to keep me down, to make me wrong, to make me... So I started healing from that place. And so whenever you bring that up, it's just like, manna from heaven. It's like, it's so important to bring that societal stuff in. Otherwise, it becomes all about us. I've got to fix me.
Yeah. Right. And then as therapists, you're supposed to fix them.
Yeah.
Or they think they should be fixed, and then that's a pretty hard place to interact with anybody.
Yeah.
And it's a place to start, but yeah. So again, comparing and contrasting, this is a learning model. This says people can learn. People can learn. They can learn tools, they can learn skills, they can learn, and they can learn how to put their attention and breath onto a sensation. They can learn, we can learn about getting to what's really true versus what's arguable. We can learn. And there's an asterisk. When we are willing. So put that somewhere, because many times that is not true. I'm not willing, I'm not open to learning, and God damn it, I'm right about this. So I love the old therapist joke. Maybe I said this the other day too. How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb? You haven't heard this joke?
I'm sure I've heard it, I don't
All of
remember.
them?
No. What did you say?
Depends if the light bulb wants to be changed.
It only takes one. It only takes one, but the light bulb has to want to change. Yeah, yeah. So that, like, put that in your back pocket, because if somebody doesn't want to learn, fine. But if they don't want to learn, you're kind of wasting your time.
Well, also, sometimes we don't know what the learning looks like. Like, having watched you and where you're like, okay, you want to stay there? Stay there as long as you want. And you know, I had a client who I was working with yesterday, and she just wanted to do the victim thing full on, and I was like, do you want to shift? And she was like, no. So I was like, okay, and let's just keep doing this. And then it, like, she was doing her own way of changing, you know, so it was like trusting that and next thing I knew, she was like, a lot was happening. But it was like she didn't want to shift the way I was shifting her. So
Yeah,
like, get
right.
over it and
Right.
let her do what she's doing.
Exactly. Let her be
Yeah.
in charge of her own self.
Yeah. Yeah. She was like, no. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Beautiful. Nice move.
Yeah, I was witnessing that, like, oh, you're not are you always asking the are you willing question, and then it's like, and no is a perfectly fine answer.
Perfectly fine answer. Yeah, so letting that be perfectly fine, and I have stopped sessions after 5 minutes. Okay, bye. Let me know. Yeah. It's like, and I know it's different when you're starting, because it was good to finish a session and get paid. But these days, I'd rather have the time. If somebody isn't willing, it's a waste of my time. And I'll say that, okay, well, I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want you to waste yours, let's stop. And it doesn't have to be mean-spirited. It just generally isn't out of anger now and then, but you don't need to get on the other side of the tug of war. What am I saying?
Tug of war.
The tug of war, yeah. You don't have to, like, okay, here, this is your life. This is not about me. I don't have to be trying to control you. If you don't want to, that's cool, great. And if you are willing, let's do some learning. So that this is not a model about psychopathology. We can diagnose, and I will help you do that, because that's interesting, and now and then very effective with your partner. I know what you really are. We learned about you last week. That would be a sign of projection. Okay, so we're going to get to the part where you get to actually do this. But I want to say, and see, I keep luring you. So this is all giving you context for S.E.W. If you read the Hendricks, Conscious Loving, they talk about the microscopic truth. And somewhere in there they talked about I think they said inarguable, and over the years I think unarguable is easier to say. I don't know what's made grammatically correct. But I love this process. I come back to this over and over, and if you listen to what I'm saying, it's kind of simple, y'all. But it's magic. It's magic. So the guy is crying. And the woman who is like, I'm an ice queen. Yesterday she was crying too. He said, well, she hasn't cried in 2 years. And then she cried again in the session. Things started to move. So this process, I love this process, and over the years I've kind of fine-tuned it. So this is the best of what I have today. But the good news about computers is it can all be better tomorrow, or not. But look at where we are. So sensations, I'm talking a lot about sensations, right? That's the S. Now, overall, I would name this speaking the unarguable truth, all right? Unarguable, you'll hear that on there. I can't argue with you. Now, the thing is, you could argue with everything on this piece of paper. All right, so I put this out there. This is how I introduced this. All right, so most people have fights because we say arguable things. So I'm going to teach you how to say things in an unarguable way, but there are things we have to agree on. It's like foul lines. If you're going to play a game, you have to agree where the foul lines are, what are the rules, so that we don't have to futz around with every point of these. I mean, I'm willing to learn from them once they know how to do this. But I want them to have some basics. So what is unarguable? And I'll start to say, well, sensations, emotions, what you want. Now I introduce it. I can't argue with you about those things. I'll go through all of that. So what do I want to say about emotions? I think, let's just do sensations for a minute. Is there an extra copy? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. You already did, we'll do it again. Any sensations in your body? Notice any sensation?
Heavy eyelids.
Heavy eyelids. Ugh. Oh yeah, we should probably take a break. I forgot. What are y'all doing with this? Do you have anything coming up right now? Questions, comments?
Maybe like last time what we witnessed.
Pardon me?
Last time what we witnessed. I wanted to share, but then in the time, I was seeing that you were talking to them, and then I thought it would get too late, so I left. But it was fascinating. Like, we always think that developmentally we are all at different levels, but to see the same issues, that we all basically face the same issues in our lives, and when it's presented, and how safe everyone was feeling, just telling what was going on, and just witnessing the shifting taking place so fast. I don't think I've seen that ever. Like, it was less than 45 minutes, I think, and it was fascinating.
You're talking about the last ILC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't believe it. And then we tried it this last weekend.
Oh, so
yeah, but it was very easy, just getting to know what emotions are, and when they overpower us, we can't feel anything else. So the emotions were scared, anxious, angry. I think these three, and how we want to feel other things, but the frustration of these things clouding over anything else we can feel. Like, but how do you mobilize that? The shift movements. I tried it, and it helped. It actually helped.
That really works. Yeah.
I mean, I was like, nah, it won't work for me. Like, no, but I'm like, no, it works.
That's why I want you to be part of these groups, because so that you can experience it. That it's not just this thing that you're learning how to do for other people,
Yeah.
but if you can embody it and you know it's happening, then you can do it anytime, anywhere. We were at a meeting earlier, and I got reactive, like, oh, here it is. It's so embarrassing.
Was that happen like once
fess
a
up.
year or something?
Yeah. Oh, I'm in reactive brain. I want to tell.
So I have a quick question. What if somebody is being unapologetically stubborn? Like, I don't want to do shift movements. No,
Yeah.
my shift movement is this.
Yeah.
That's not shift movement. But maybe it is for you, but it's not mobilizing anything.
Well, so that's an interesting moment, because if that's me and I'm saying, all right, now do you want to shift? You're like,
Done.
I'm shifting.
I'm shifting.
I'll say, oh, okay, so you don't want to. All right, so
Ah.
I just want to stay engaged with that. Doesn't say that, oh, that's a no. Okay, I hear the no. It's fine with me, you can have a no. I don't have to get into some power struggle with you about that. As tempting as it might be.
Yeah. But you are going to get better.
I know.
I don't
you
want
just do right, because I believe we are all ambivalent. So imagine, well, we used to have seesaws, people do that anymore. They were all ambivalent, and so I want to get better, I don't want to get better. Like, that's part of who we are. Change is overrated. I mean, it's scary for people. Yeah, I want to be different. Well, I don't want to feel this much pain, but now you want me to be in this unfamiliar territory of feeling good? Shoot, like, so to understand that, and this is one of those, it's not on this outline, but I want to be sure you get this one. Cool, this will save you a lot of stress. To understand that if you, as the therapist, go on one side of the ambivalence, what you're doing is bringing the client into the other, or your partner, or... So if you're like, no, you can change. No, I can't.
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
So it's to start seeing that energy. Hey, no, really, look, I've got all these great ideas for you. No. So, but the cool thing is you can be on the other side of that too of, yeah, I don't know what you should do.
Yeah.
This is dire. I can see this might never change. So playing with that, we all have ambivalence. So you can go on either side of it.
So as a therapist, so I just went to go see a spiritual teacher named Gangaji who was in town, if you know her.
I've never seen her personally.
She's wonderful, yeah, she's wonderful. But what her, I think essentially what her message comes down to is radical self-acceptance. So if I've got a client that's ambivalent, or a friend, I'm just chuckling because I do this with a friend of mine so much, and just radical acceptance. It's like, okay, you don't want to do it, great, okay.
That's wonderful.
Or radical acceptance of the client, or radical acceptance of myself, whatever it is.
And I would say of being in the moment with, this is what's true, this is what's happening right now, and I don't have to make it different.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to push it to be different. This is what's the truth. So can I be with the truth? So as therapists, can we be with the truth? Ooh, it's humans.
Because in the example from last week, even though I know the circumstances were slightly different, 2 of the 3, you didn't have them go. And like, that was obviously the right thing for them. So it's almost like trusting like the wisdom of the client too, in some ways, right?
Absolutely.
Even in,
Absolutely. So again, imagine that they're whole and you can trust people.
right.
Like you.
Well, and
Just give you a moment, like trusting you.
Just giving them that is already like the massive.
Yeah, like basic human respect. But I want to take it back to the source. You, would you be willing to trust you as therapists, as humans? Because the more you can do that and go beyond whatever damn thing is wrong with you and me. Like, okay, yeah, it's true. I have all that list. What's wrong? Oh well. But I can trust myself to kind of sit back into it for the most part and be with what is. It's a lovely thing to cultivate, I think. Yeah, letting ourselves be who we are. Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit more. Because look, as we go from the S to the E, the sensations to the emotions, there's a built-in problem with that. Now we're starting to make shit up. Is it true? I don't know if it's true, but it helps, I think, seems to give people a little bit more frame around, oh, this sensation means something, because sensations do mean something, I think. What I think happens is that our bodies are walking around this world and basically, trying to figure out how to stay alive. So that along the way, we've learned, oh, that's a threat. Oh, that thing could fall on my head. Oh, that person is looking at me funny. Right? So we're scanning, our survival brains are scanning, and then we kind of lurch along at times like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And so those are signals between us and us that there's a threat. Warning, warning, warning. And so to actually let ourselves notice that, like, okay, I just detected a threat, which does not mean there is a threat. Let's just go over that one again. Right, so our bodies are saying, look out, warning, this is bad. Doesn't mean there's a threat. So when I was saying across from Shelley, like, this does not mean there's a threat. This means my body is reactive. There's something that got triggered in me. I haven't thought about it yet because it's like, whatever. It doesn't matter because if we go back to, it's just sensation anyway. But it's trying to communicate something to me. And in relationships, it helps if I can tell you what the heck's going on. If something just happened, you probably detected that something happened. I don't know if either of you detected, Robbie and Shelley, that something happened for me.
Do this.
Yeah, I was burrowing. Right, so you know, because you're sensitive and tuned in, you're in the connection, the context, so you can feel something. So that if I can put words to it, there's going to be a few things that happen. There's actually a part of my brain, when I label an experience, that's already starting to shift out of threat. I can't remember which parts, but anybody can find that, that'll be great. There's some part. Yeah, by labeling it, by being able to put some sort of frame around it, it's already starting to help me shift. So noticing is a shift move. So if I start with a sensation, oh, I'm in black, that's nice. I'm already noticing. And then I say, well, where is that in my body? Oh, it's here. Oh, it's here. Oh, it's here and here. Right? That where it's lighting up, where the sensations are lighting up, are going to give me a lot of information. Some of it will be accurate. At least it'll give you something to go on. So here's the quick emotional anatomy, and I go through this with clients. I say, okay, let me just show you. We're going to go through the emotions, and you only get mad, sad, glad, scared, sexual. Why do you get sexual? That's weird. Yeah, it is weird, so don't worry about it. Except for here's why. I'm going to be sure I tell you this. I'll tell you the law. Here's the law. On my honor. The law from here on out. Love this. It's powerful. Anybody gets to feel it's on your paper. Anything. Anytime. For any reason. Because there you are, you have that interoception. You didn't decide to have your heart palpitate. Now, somewhere in your brain, you might have said, whoa, threat, threat. Better get that heart going, right? But you didn't say, oh, it would be fun if my heart could palpitate right now. I'm a little bored. Go, heart, go, right? For any reason. So often we're like, oh my God, this is a terrible place to have my heart palpitating. What do I have to feel scared about? I shouldn't be scared. I shouldn't be sad. Right? We try to talk ourselves out of the thing that's actually happening. Well, that'll make somebody crazy. Really, if you want to drive yourself crazy, say the experience that you're having is wrong. Really, I shouldn't be feeling angry. But that's what people do. I don't know other cultures if that's true in all cultures, but it sure seems like it. There's one emotion that's better than the other ones, or maybe none of them are good, or whatever. So that we shouldn't be feeling what we're feeling, even though we're feeling it. So, on my honor, anybody, this is the law, everybody, take it further. There's sections to it, I haven't written them out yet. But give yourself a break and let yourself feel what you're feeling. And it can start. So let's do this a little bit. So who, Diane, did you ever work it out with the guy?
I still can't stand it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Would you be willing to?
Yeah,
He does have an all.
People have met him here. He's a perfect, he's like a PhD therapy guy.
Wow. So just notice stories.
Yeah.
Okay? Notice the stories. And people can agree about a read, and that kind of gets into place. Because he's full off. But all we know, what's really true, is in your body. You are the source of it. Starting to get to that.
So I've been told.
So when you think about it, it's right there. Yeah, right there. And what does that feel like?
Fluttery, tense, excited.
Yeah. Fluttery tongue. So breathing into that area, letting it get even bigger, more fluttery and more tense, excited. It's turning on because it's easier to discern with it. And as you're breathing into that, what's happening?
Very loud voice saying, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him.
And what's happening with this sensation?
It's growing.
Great. Beautiful. So I'm going to talk to Howard for a second. Okay, so notice you're to tune into this, then to stay. It's very, that means a little trickster. It's like, come up and hang out with all the stories. Better than the sensations. What's that gonna do? Right, so coming back to, it's bigger, so what's bigger?
Attention and the, oh, it's weird to have tension and excitement at the time. Tension and excitement.
Yep.
Yeah.
So tension and breathing with that, and that get even bigger. Tolerating what that feels like. Now as it's amplified, I'm just gonna drop this question in. Does that area mostly feel mad or sad or scared?
Definitely scared.
Definitely scared. Great. So big on the scared. Any bad or mad?
Mad.
So scared and mad. Any scared.
No.
How about glad or sexual? Just one.
Well, there is glad in, it feels really self-righteous.
Okay, kind of that kind of glad, like
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah, like
great.
I'm way better.
Yeah, I'm better than that, yeah. Okay, well,
Yeah.
so then going back, so we have mad and scared and glad. Okay, so I like to start here because usually, I mean, this just often fuels other things. So as you keep breathing into that, so this part is strange because it's all made up, like what's true, and but you probably will, because some of this will feel like yes, and some of this will feel like, well, maybe. So scared, going back to scared. Okay. So what are you perceiving as a threat, Murder?
And take something away from me.
Or he's going to take something away from you. But would you be willing to let yourself feel scared?
Yeah, do.
So breathe in and let yourself feel scared as you feel. He's going to take something. Breathing, you breathe. What are you noticing with that place as you feel scared about that?
I feel sad.
And now some sadness. So where's the sadness? Up here.
Behind my eyes.
It's not interesting period of color. You don't know how that happened, but it did. So you let yourself be with that, and it moves up here. So let yourself notice that side, and then that get bigger.
That went away.
Okay, that's true. Did you have a thought in between?
No.
Okay, it just went away. Yeah, great. And so now what's happening?
Back to the, I take something away from me.
Okay, and would you be willing to add the word feel afraid?
I feel afraid
He's going to take something.
that he's gonna take something away from me.
It takes it back to the source, not he will, I'm afraid he will. I have fear.
Fear.
Yeah, great. So again, you feel as scared as you feel. It's gonna take it. Letting yourself feel all of really scared. So as you notice you're sad, what is the perceived loss here? It could be something that this might be. Other time of life when you were afraid about that.
You know, it was like in my family, I didn't get anything. It was so hard to get anything that I think I'm afraid of losing something that I don't have because I just can't get it in place.
Huh. That's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Afraid of losing something I don't even have. Yeah. So letting that, I'm afraid about that. And I feel sad about what? What was this? By not having those things.
Like a profound sense of tension.
What does that feel like in your body?
A lot of sadness.
A lot of sadness. And so notice the difference between deprivation and sadness. Deprivation is a story of all kinds of stuff with it. Well, what's worse? Deprivation, abandonment, all that stuff. Well, sadness can move. So let's support it tomorrow. You get to be as sad as you feel about what you lost as a child. Breathing with that. Giving yourself permission to feel as sad as you feel. And what did you lose? Sounds like contact or connection.
My dad keeps coming up. Well, there never was connection.
That you can remember.
Yeah.
Did he leave?
No, he's workaholic. Just wasn't. It's just couldn't. Can't emotionally.
Yeah. So who knows? It's possible that you had connection and you.
Could have happened.
It's possible. Who knows? No. It's the reason I'm going there is because you feel sad about it. Feel sad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm imposing something on you, right? I don't know if but it's interesting. Our pictures of our parents is what happened when we were born, what their hopes and dreams were. Again, I don't know, but your body does. So how's the sadness?
It's still there.
Yeah.
Still joking me.
We're breathing with that and letting that gift it is. Being yourself. It sounds like you've choked off your sad a long time. You don't have to. You get to feel as sad as you feel. With that, stay with that sensation. What's happening?
Yeah. Another coming to mind is just like it's like I don't have power. Like with this relation, I don't have like it's triggering thought that I don't have
Beautiful.
any power.
Beautiful. Yeah. So your mind is jumping and saying, "Yeah, well, I don't have any power here." Yeah. And then what does your body say?
It's sad and angry.
Yeah, well, it'll piss somebody off. That thought. Yeah. So I don't actually believe that. I don't know. It's true. It's just because your mind just created it. But what I do believe your sense is, like your mind just evoked that. So come back to just what's in your body.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to that thought and I lost the sadness.
Oh, very funny.
Like, oh, JJ, this
How could that?
Wow, that was interesting.
Great noticing too. Yeah. So let yourself come back to your. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to ask in the middle of this. I know there's a lot, but I wonder, the guy with your dad, this whole thing, what is it you really want?
I want to be seen.